skills. And this is now being recorded. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to take you through a presentation today, and I'll just go into the share screen and I'll introduce myself properly when we get there. Can I just get a thumbs up or a nod that this is visible? Can you see my screen?
Yep, it's coming through.
Okay, great. Thank you. Didn't have the chat up. Thanks, Marion. Thanks, Chris. And apologies, someone's just decided to do some drilling next door. Hopefully that's not too distracting. Okay, so today's session is the business of art, and it's your keys to a more sustainable art career. Now, what I often find is people can get very focused or distracted on the one next thing, the one shiny thing. So this is a more holistic overview of the sorts of things that successful artists at every stage in their career have for their career. The sorts of things that are important to not skimp on. Now, in this session, as I move from slide to slide, too far, sorry, let's drop back, something odd happened there. Right, so I'll give you a quick intro so you know a little bit about the relevance of my background, so you can decide how much you want to trust the information I'm sharing. I'm going to take you through 9 specific keys with some guidance on what you need for each in your career and business. Now, I have provided for Dylan a guide that he can make available to you so that there's a checklist for you at the end as well. And there's a small offer just at the end as well. So first, let me introduce myself. I am, as Dylan said, an exhibiting artist. I own businesses and I'm also a coach. I did my Bachelor of Arts Fine Art many moons ago, and I actually took a break after a period because I really struggled with the business of being an artist. And that's quite a key thing for how come I've developed the Artist Business Lounge. In 2000, I went back to art school and I did my postgraduate degree at the Victorian College of the Arts. I'm originally from Victoria and I've been exhibiting since. I've had multiple exhibitions, it's over 100 that I've participated in a whole host of venues, including commercial galleries and art prizes, and I've curated exhibitions as well. So I've been on both sides of that. I've received funding and I've built online communities, which is really important to me. But in addition to that, I've developed online businesses in both products and services and been successful in those. And I've had a dual career. So for about 20 years alongside my art career, I was actually a corporate leadership coaching person, and I learned a lot from that experience that I've been able to tap into the knowledge that I share with my clients in the Artist Business Lounge and for myself personally. So that's my background in summary, and a selection of photographs. And thank you for the person, Marion, confirming that you couldn't hear the drilling. So it's only distracting to me and I will pay attention for that. Sorry, I've lost my navigation pane down the bottom. There we go. So when I mentioned that I took that break after my fine art, I had all of the ambition in the world. I was a really great student. I knew how to paint. I learnt what I was doing. But I really struggled because I didn't know about the business, and specifically the business of being in an art business, which is slightly different to regular other kinds of businesses. And I really lacked the confidence because I felt like, well, I've gone through art school. I should be able to succeed through sheer hard work and willpower. And I thought then that succeeding was all about proving to others that I was good enough and worthy enough so that they would approve of me and they would give me the opportunities. And I look back at that thinking and I kind of laugh at myself now, because opportunities are abundant when you look for them and when you create them as well. So what I figured out in that great big gap that I had was that it wasn't about my prices or about my artwork. It was quite simply that I had knowledge gaps. And my expectations that I should just be able to know it all and do it all and succeed all on my own just weren't really helping me. And so I focused instead on what I could already do and then on building my knowledge and my skills about the business I'm in as an artist. And I built them through community, I built them through learning, I built them through a whole host of other things. And what that enabled me to do was to create my own opportunities. I created an artist supporting artist forum back in the day when artists weren't even on Facebook, giving away age, but it was a really pivotal moment for me. And I ran that online community for, oh gosh, a good 5-6 years. And I paid attention to the different elements, not just in my career, but in all of the artists that I was meeting, their careers. And I'm going to take you through today, because when you pay attention to these, that's when you get the yeses, and when I started getting the yeses that I'd been dreaming of. So let's get into it now that I've told you who I am. And there will be, of course, opportunity for questions at the end. But if you've got questions that you'd like to drop in during the time, we'll keep an eye on the chat. And so we'll just move through. Now, the first thing that I want to impress upon you is that you have more control over your art career than you might think. Now, irrespective of the kind of art career that you have, there is always something that you can do to manage and improve and elevate your career in the way that you would like it to. I've known too many people who felt that they need, like I'd mentioned about myself, to wait for the approval, to wait for the acceptance for this event or that prize or this sale or what have you. But you always have control about how to advance your career. So when I talk about a sustainable career, and I actually use the term sustainable and successful kind of interchangeably, but for me, when I'm talking about it, so that we're talking from the same point, it's a career that provides you with the ability to make the work that you are called to make. Now, artists have different work that comes through them, and when you've got the career that enables you to make the work that you're called to make, I think that's a really important one. But also to be able to make a living. Now, what making a living means is going to be different for people based on their particular personal situations, financial needs and aspirations. But you want to be able to make a living with a sustainable art career. It also means one where you can run your career in alignment with your vision and achieve your goals. So that's the 4 sort of factors that I see as being a sustainable art career. Now, what that might all require from a day-to-day activity perspective, they're going to change if you are an artist whose business model is working purely in originals in bricks and mortar gallery and commercial representation, or if you're an artist who has a pure e-commerce focus and store, if you work in merch, if you work in licensing, if you work in any kind of different medium, it doesn't matter the business model, that's your call to make. And so those day-to-day activities may vary depending on the focus. But essentially, these are the 4 things that you want to be able to achieve to have a successful and sustainable art career. Now, this is a quote, Vincent Van Gogh, which I really like, which is, "Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together." And the reason I drop this in is because I'm giving you a whole ton of keys to say these are the sorts of things that you need to do, because success doesn't come about through just one thing. It's not just the pricing, it's not just the work, it's not just being on social media. It's a mix of things. So let's get into those keys. The first one for me is always the work itself, because if the work didn't matter, you wouldn't have an art career of any kind. And my advice here is to be as ambitious for your art as you are for your career, because without it, there's no art business, there's no art career. And the work is central to your marketing, through your interacting with your audience. It really is the center of everything you do, and it is your opportunity for income generation. And the other thing that's unique about it is only you can make your work. Now, you might be working in prints, in photography, in painting, combination, and you might be working in, say, landscape. I work in landscape painting. There's plenty of people who are landscape painters, but only I make the work I make, and only you make the work you make. So on your first key, it's about making sure that you devote regular and consistent time to making and developing your work. Now, some people have a lot more time available to them for this activity than others based on personal circumstances. Irrespective of how much time you have, being diligent about devoting regular and consistent time that you have available to making and developing your work is really important. It enables you to keep on continually growing and improving your work, and that helps you to engage more and more with existing and new audiences, as well as achieving creative satisfaction. So key number one is the work itself. Now, another one that I see as being really important, and when I work with artists in my programs, it tends to be the one that really shakes them up and changes things, because we all know that businesses have visions, corporate mission statements, visions, and so on. But oftentimes artists, particularly individual artists working on their own, don't have a really clear vision. It might be something like, I would just like to make my living through my art. You may have a clear vision, in which case, fantastic, you're already ticking off number two. What your vision is that non-negotiable core of who you are as an artist. It's what you believe in and where you really want to see yourself. So a great way to come up with vision is to really dream what a perfect future looks like and start to fill in, put meat on the bones of that skeleton. Now, the reason that it's incredibly helpful is that it becomes so much easier to navigate your career against that vision. Is it taking you closer to the vision when this opportunity or that opportunity comes up, or is it moving me further away? It's always a good frame of reference. When your vision's clear, it becomes much easier to connect with ideal collectors or collaborators, supporters, colleagues, and it helps you to put the right frameworks in place for your art career and business. Without it, it can be really easy to get distracted and go off track and waste time and energy. And we know, as creative people, I'm sure you all know this, there's always endless ideas, endless opportunities of things that you can do. So one of the things about a vision is helping you to direct your energy to serve your vision. It's a way of bringing that really unique voice in. When you don't have it, you're more likely to get distracted. You're more likely to have unfocused energy, or worry and be confused or stressed or misaligned because I don't know if what I'm doing is actually taking me anywhere. You get into this sort of busy mode. But the vision, when it's aligned to your values, when you get greater clarity, you can align your actions, and it gives you much clearer direction and a path to achieving what is most important to you. It means you can be more efficient, even if your time is limited, and means you can be more connected. So vision is a really important thing to have. Now, I see no questions in chat, so I will continue on. Another part of vision is goals. So your goals and strategy are really the what and the how of your career. And they are how you navigate your art career in alignment with your vision. So I've put it all in as number two, clarity on your vision and your goals. because again, it helps you to be intentional in the decisions about what you will do and when you'll do it, and very importantly, what you won't do. And one of the things that I learned a lot in my corporate role was that one of the biggest indicators or biggest impacts on whether you'd be successful or not at just about anything you were trying to achieve was what you were prepared to say no to, because of that clarity of what was important and yes. So that's something that I think is really important. And the goals are also a great way to help to monitor and recognise and celebrate our successes and progress, to see what's working. And all of the research tells us that writing down your goals gives you a much, much greater chance of achieving them. When you've got monitors, when you're monitoring your progress, you know if you're on track or off track, so you can make adjustments. But importantly, you want to celebrate successes. It's something that amazingly people are really good at, noticing all the things that they didn't do, that they didn't get to, or the things that they didn't do to the right level. I always notice our disappointments, but we're pretty quick to move on from our successes. So having goals is a good way to be able to give another tick. So my tips on key number 2, which is vision and goals, is to define your vision as clearly as possible. Imagine that perfect future when you're describing someone this wonderful, successful art business that you have. What does it look like? Who are you with? Who are your clients? Who are you serving? How are you serving? How are you creating? What are you creating? Make it as clear as possible. Create actionable goals that are aligned with your vision. And I really encourage not having too many goals all at once, but to always have continually evolving and developing goals. And then focus on doing the things that support the goals and vision and not the things that don't. So that's my number 2. Number 3 is it's a business. Make it your business to know the business that you are in. That's kind of my mantra at the moment, because there is so much possibility. When I work with artists in my program, there's quite a wide variety. So I've got people who are commercial photographers who are transitioning into adding on, say, fine art photography branch. I've got people who are brand new in their careers, people who are extensive, and different types of aspirations. And what's important, and this is why vision really helps, is that you can get clear on the specific business that you want your art business to be. And the making of the art, it's important, and it's always easy to spend every available hour just on the making of the art, but it isn't the total of your art career, especially if you want to make any kind of living from your art. So understanding the business that you are in as an artist, whether your model is self-represented online, merchandise prints, licensed images, gallery representation with only original works, or a hybrid of any of those, or something else entirely different, understand what your business needs to flourish and put those right things in place. And working as hard at your career as you do at your art. So are you giving enough attention and time and care to the non-art making aspects of your artist career? And having that really nice balance. Some people end up really just drowning in all of the business side. Some people only in the creative side. It's got to have the right balance. Do you actually know the different elements that you need in place for your business? And do you have the right tools? Now, if you want it to be a business that's income generating, do you actually have a plan to make an income that is backed up by action? This is something that I often see is missed from artists who start with their vision with a broad, I just want to make a living as an artist, and we get down to the what's the actual plan, and it's not clear. So making that clear is how you earn an income. Famous quote, Henry Ford from 1947, whether you believe you can do a thing or not, you are right. Mindset is key. I could have easily put mindset as the second thing straight after the work, or maybe in amongst, but it has a significant impact on your success. It impacts what you do. Now, your mindset is how you filter, interpret the world around you, and it's what you believe, whether it's true or not. Now, this gets in the way of artists a lot of the time, and I know it's something that I've had to delve into myself over the years. If you're having anxiety about pricing your work, if you're feeling resistance about making the work or about putting it out, you've been working on your website for 2 years and it's still not live, if you have a lack of confidence, mindset may well be the thing that you need to have a look at there. Now, an interesting thing about mindset, and I'll give you an example of this. If someone's mindset is not supportive of their success and they believe that they really can't make a living from their art, and we have someone else who has a very healthy mindset in terms of their potential for success, and they believe they do. Now, if these two individuals get the same very genuine inquiry about a purchase from a potential client, the one with the poor mindset might send a reply. And then if they don't hear back, the actions they might take might include spiraling into doubt, they didn't like it, it was priced too high, and they make up all sorts of scenarios about why they didn't hear back in the first 5 hours, 24 hours. Whereas the person with a really healthy mindset will say, I haven't heard back, I must follow up on that, and they will send a follow-up inquiry. And they probably know that a lot of sales take 5 or more follow-ups. And that's irrespective of whether you're selling original art, reproductions, merchandise, or any other thing in the world. And the more expensive, the more exclusive, the more follow-ups tend to be involved. So this is why if you're focusing on a positive mindset and you're helping and you're building a mindset that is supportive of your success, you can take action and close sales, whereas you would have lost sales in the other way. That's just one example. Mindset issues, confidence is where people really stop themselves from playing as big as they'd like when they keep their goals too small. The beautiful thing, though, is that all of the research in neuroscience tells us that we can rewire our thinking. And there is a range of techniques, a range of exercises that you can do to deal with that. This is one of the things that I work with artists on. Now, if you're not sure if you've got a mindset issue that's impacting your success, you can use something like a prompter statement and see what comes up for you. Like, I can't be successful because, and list all the reasons that might not happen. And that's just one prompt. In the guide, there's a couple more. And you can get to the nub of whether you really believe it, and then you can start to unpack it and move past those limiting beliefs. But being aware of the mindset, not just adopt a business mindset. I've heard coaches say that, adopt an entrepreneurial mindset. There's more to it than that. You have to unpack the limiting beliefs so that you can reframe and give yourself more positive support. Now, interestingly, this is something that business leaders in all kinds of organisations focus on too. So the CEOs of your big organisations, they're spending time and energy on making sure they've got the right mindset. Why wouldn't artists want to do that too? So that's number 4. And no questions in the chat, so I will continue. Now, another important thing is to know who your market is. And your market is going to be relevant for the business model you have, for your vision, for who you want to be serving. Everybody who likes art isn't your market. Anybody who's got money and might buy art isn't your market. It's going to be something a bit more unique. And if you want a particular audience, if you want a particular market, then that is where you want to focus your efforts and show up. So who do you want? Who are you making your art that you most want to share it with? There really isn't one art world. It's so many different art villages, and just you can be in whichever village you want. So when you work out and decide who you want your target audience to be, then you can start talking directly to that target audience, and it makes your marketing and your sales and your success so much simpler. Numbers. Knowing your numbers is powerful. And with numbers, we're talking about all kinds of data. And the reason data is really powerful is because it will answer so many questions and helps you to make decisions and to prioritize. And particularly if you're you want to minimize high effort and low profit options in your revenue streams, all of the different ways that you can make money from your art and your art skills. When you know your numbers, it helps you to determine your prices and to make decisions that enable you to have a profitable art career. But of course, it's not just prices, it's information about all kinds of performance, like numbers, expenses, website traffic, mailing list signups, clicks, and obviously for online sales, conversions. How many people are coming to your website? The conversion rates are pretty typical in all sorts of digital businesses. A 2% conversion rate is a good number, and therefore, if you have very limited traffic, very limited email lists, then that's going to have an impact. So just having an awareness of the numbers. You don't have to become an accountant and get full-blown, but you have to know what numbers are important and measure and track them so they can help you to make decisions. This morning I was in a Facebook group where someone had posted a pair of yoga pants with a print over them and said, should I make these? And my questions back were, what's the return on investment? Do you have a market for that? How is it compatible with the rest of your offering? How is it relevant? They're the questions to ask before you then decide, do I want to do these? Because when you know your numbers, it gives you freedom and clear focus. And the very best chance there is from making a living from your skills and knowledge. So the sorts of things that I'd encourage you to be aware of if you're not already is understanding what it actually costs you to have and maintain your art career, to have some kind of targets each month that you track, and those targets will be related to the particular goals that you have, and understand how to price your work for your market and for making that profit. Now, do you have more than one revenue stream that complement each other and complement your vision? Ideally, you'd want to have multiple revenue streams, and that's multiple ways of earning income. It helps to even out highs and lows, seasonality, things like that, and it also helps to tap into different levels of your market. So knowing your numbers is number 6. 7, and I've cheated here a little bit. I've broken this up into 2. So 7 is foundations, your collateral. Now, all artists need to have core documents, image files, and inventory, and it's the simplest thing to do to make sure that they're nicely organized. So you want an up-to-date bio or an about page or combination, depending on whether you're online or offline, an artist statement about your work, an up-to-date CV, and appropriate high-res image files for print. And now that's whether you're for print magazines for advertising, but also print for products, print for suitable images for printing, for print images. Dylan can talk to that a bit more, I'm sure. And also some suitable low-res image files for online. Making sure that you have them and they're really easy to get to and they're organised, it just makes it way easier to respond to the right opportunities, but it also saves you time because you're not trying to reinvent the wheel every single time. You just organise your files and just makes life so much easier. I've had that experience where I've literally been asked for an image for a magazine and they've apologised with, we've got a 15-minute opportunity, and I was able to just go, right, here's the high-res image and with all of the details in the file name. So it's a really helpful thing to do progress. And inventory, just keeping an inventory of the finished artworks. So whether that's a physical or digital inventory. Now, hopefully you're all taking this in. I feel like I'm talking fairly fast. Are we all good? Tracking okay? Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you need me to pause, got a thumbs up there. Thank you. Okay, so I'll keep on going. Now, this is getting into nuts and bolts territory. And I told you I split foundations out. So I said collateral, and now I'm talking operational. Now, if you think about your foundations as the engine room, it's like a motor in a car. You know, it isn't everything, but you're not going to get very far without it. And it's about making it really simple. The right platforms for your need so that your work is seen, and the best platform will be relevant to what it is that you're trying to achieve. You want good automation to enhance and simplify customer interactions so that you're not becoming a customer service person 100%. You want systems for consistency and simplicity, and processes to make life easier, as well as habits and team. Now, team doesn't mean that they're necessarily your employees. Team are the people that help you to do these things. So one of my team, I have a woman who's an online business manager who supports the technical side of my website updates. And that just makes my life easier. This stuff is really important for any artist who wants to make regular sales online. If your business is focused on selling prints via your website, you've probably got a lot of this stuff already sorted. But if you're moving newly into that area, then you want to think about what's the most seamless way that I can do this without going into tech overwhelm and without having to pay for a gazillion different subscriptions as well. So I encourage you to work out what your needs are and research and consider the best systems, but also having the best tech stack for your needs, the different types of computer platforms that you might have. So that's your email service provider, that's your website, those sorts of things. Get support where needed. You don't have to become an IT guru. There are people around who can help with various things, and there are low-cost solutions to that. So get the support where you need and fill in the gaps. My website, theartistbusinesslounge.com, does have a freebie called Tech Tools for Artists Guide with useful links. So if you want to hop on there, you can just download that. It's on the front page. Now, I said there's 9, so we're now up to 8, and 8 is all about showing up. How you show up online, in your email exchanges, your mail outs, your in-person, is how you are going to be remembered. It builds that crucial know, like, and trust factor, which marketers always talk about in terms of attracting sale. But it really is the bridge between you, your vision, your work, and your audience. The where and how you show up to the right people in the right place in a way that makes sense for them and for you is how you get to steer your art career. And knowing your audience helps you to decide where to show up. You're not going to see me dancing on TikTok to bring in artist clients. Now, I'm sure there's plenty of artists on TikTok, but it doesn't fit with my vision. And I don't feel terribly comfortable there, and I'm not sure how much of my audience would be there. So, just bear that in mind. And I wanted to share a quote. Now, this is just one that always intrigues me. There's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in something, you only do it when it's convenient. When you're committed to something, you accept no excuses, only results. Now, the reason I like this is because if you are finding that there's a part of your career that, or a type of art or a type of audience or something else where you're really not willing to make the effort, it may be that it's not that commitment in there. But I just share this. Showing up, continued. It covers marketing, but also those things like your grant applications, submissions, social media, newsletters. If you haven't seen, there's a Queensland Business Basics grant going at the moment, so this is sort of included. It includes how you show up at artist talks in your studio. So what do I suggest? Develop a plan to show up consistently when and where it matters for you, your vision and goals. So for me, the Artist Business Lounge business, Instagram is where most people will find me. So I need a good plan around Instagram. But you don't want to be a full-time marketer, just like you don't want to be a full-time customer service person. So do automate and outsource as much of that as possible. Batching and scheduling are a treat. And of course, you've got to show up to make the work. So that's 8 elements. Now, I don't know a single successful artist that doesn't have these in play. The level of how much ownership for each of them they have, the level of outsourcing that they do will vary, but every one of them has these. And more than any of them, they all have this, your community. Your community is critical. Creative people, artists, often spend a lot of time on their own. It's a really important part of the process for many people. It's how we reflect and how we allow the ideas to come through and focus on the work. And that alone time is really important. But sometimes that can become a little bit overwhelming. And one of the most important and often overlooked keys is your community. When I'm talking about a community, I'm talking about a supportive network that includes a healthy mix of fellow artists, but also the suppliers and the service providers that you can really count on over and again. I've got this courier who actually knows how to get into my studio when I'm not here, if I need him to pick stuff up when I'm not here. And he can just let himself in, take the work, leave me a receipt, and lock up after himself. It's hilarious, but incredibly helpful. So, always know who you can rely on. But the reason that you want to have this community is also nobody knows what it is to be an artist more than an artist. That excitement of new ideas, the excitement of possibilities, the disappointment when things don't go quite to plan, the bouncing off ideas about the work itself or any other aspect of the career, people who can cheer you on when you're succeeding and commiserate with you when things aren't quite going to plan. It makes a huge difference. And the other reason that it makes a huge difference is artists are very creative and love creating opportunities. And when they create opportunities, they often create opportunities for other artists as well. So there's some real benefits to it. Now, what your particular tribe looks like, here's a picture of some of mine. That's me waving there. What your particular tribe looks like is going to be dependent on who you like to associate with. Doesn't mean that you suddenly have to become an extrovert or be out at every networking event or any of that. You get to be exactly who you are. It's just tapping into what's the support that you need. Is it a group, individual artists, find a coach, mentor, teacher, whatever it is that you need, because you don't have to do all of this alone. And if you find that you're surrounded by naysayers, and they do crop up a lot, then simply trade up by bringing in some more positivity into your community to try and even things out a bit, because you want cheerleaders in your community. So they are the 9 things that I think are critical. Now, they're not the register your business name, make sure you have a separate bank account, make sure you have a payment system. I haven't gotten into that level of detail, but all of these 9 keys give you that overarching, all of those items belong in one of these keys. Sharing another quote, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. So if you are looking to make any kind of change, the thing I'd encourage you to do is to recognise not only the gaps and the opportunities and the improvements, but also acknowledge the things that you have in place. You've already got things in place. Some of those will be working really beautifully for you, and some of them you might just want to tweak and add on. So you got where you are today with what you've done so far, and where you go next is entirely up to you. So here is the 9 that we covered, and I actually have them in this takeaway summary here. Here is the 9 in summary. I feel like I spoke very, very fast then, so I have no idea what time, and I hope people were taking that in. So it's over to you for questions, everybody.
Thank you very much for that, Amanda. I might jump in as well. Do you mind going back to the slide with the summary?
Yes, absolutely. Let me find my my slide controller. I need a better controller when I'm in Canva. Oh, sorry, guys. It goes weird. Canva is fun to design things. It's really easy, but it's not as great on...
yeah, it doesn't have the same presentation controls.
No, it's so much easier. Almost there. There we go.
I just wondered if anyone who was listening would be happy to jump in and, like, in your own career and your own sort of visual art setup, are you aware of any gaps that you might have that you'd be happy to share, and we can just have a little bit of conversation about? So, Rachel, you mentioned the fact that it's mindset, confidence, and the imposter syndrome. Did you have a little think about that, Amanda?
Look, mindset is absolutely, I have to say, you are so not alone, Rachel. And I see it in artists, but I see it in so many entrepreneurs, small business, so much so I've actually created an entire program just around that. Mindset is really just about building self-trust and understanding where your origin stories came from. You know, why do you actually believe that you can't be successful or that you don't deserve to be successful? So it's about taking up some space in the world. On my blog, I've got a couple of helpful tips there, but really doing the understanding, why do you have this belief, and then reframing it. A really good clue in your mindset and is around the sort of language that you use. So I can't, I won't, I don't know, it won't work, etc. And being aware that those you're telling yourself, and then reframing. So I can't do this yet. I can't because I haven't learned how, but I'm really enjoying learning how, you know, and also that evidence. There's a brilliant quote that I saw that is, if you must doubt anything, doubt your limits. And I just thought, we spend all of our time doubting the things that are great, but what about if the limits that you're imposing on yourselves are the things to doubt? So it is something that I can suggest a few different things, but you're far from alone, Rachel, with that.
And just to jump in as well, Rachel, one thing I've noticed with both photographers and artists is the way that people compare themselves to competitors, to other people's work, to other people's social media feeds. And I think that can be incredibly dangerous, and that sometimes consciously disconnecting from what other people in the same niche are doing can be really, really good for building your own confidence. It's something we do as an organization. Like, we very consciously don't look at what other people in the same space are doing, because early on in our own history as an organization, we found we would get incredibly distracted with things that people were introducing, how they would do that, wondering whether or not the way we did it was good enough. And that kind of conscious stepping back and just thinking, I'm going to focus on what I'm doing, what Liam's doing, and how we can make that happen was incredibly helpful for us.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice, you know, that that quote that kind of springs to mind, comparison is the thief of joy. And this is why your vision is so important, because when you get super clear on your vision, you can kind of discount what everyone else is doing. This isn't about everyone else. It's about you. So, yeah. Marianne, thanks. Yes, reminded me of some great points I know but had forgotten. This is the secret of coaching. You all know things. You all know so much more than you remember. So it's just bringing things up to the surface all the time, definitely.
Caroline, did you want to mention a little bit more about what you mean in terms of number 6? Like, I know you've got a few strings to your bow and sort of different avenues to what you do. So always volunteering or doing fun things that don't make money.
Well, this is the when you know your numbers and you've got really clear goals and vision, then you can look at what's the mix of where you're going to put your energy. So you still get to do the fun things that don't make money, but you get to do some other things that make money as well. Like when you come up with your plan about where you're going to spend time, you still want there to be joy. So if something's bringing you joy that is not profitable, that's completely fine. You just work it out in your overall revenue stream. So where's the opportunity to come up with something else that can bring in the money for you and provide that opportunity? And balance is really about, it's different for each person in terms of what's important. And it's really important to understand who you are and how you operate as a person, and being able to appreciate the different rhythms and seasons in your pattern. So I'm someone that will be, and confession, I will occasionally have days where I will work like stupid 18 hours, and it's because I've got really excited and great opportunity. But I could not do that day in, day out, nor would I want to, and everything would be terrible. But I know that for me, that can be a good day if there's only a few of those. And so it's just about the mix and working out what works for you. Always about who you are, what's important to you and how you operate, and not thinking, again, that comparison. There's no shoulds about what you should do. It's about what works for you.
And then Chris brings up a point around, well, two things. He's talking about vision and goals and mindset, but also that idea that, like I mentioned Chris to you before we started, and for those who don't know Chris, he's insanely talented. That his brand of illustrative photography can mean spending up to 500 hours creating a single composite image. It's quite amazing. Check him out. But Chris talks about having another job and that confidence to make, like when you decide to make, when do you decide to make the leap to think, okay, visual arts can be my primary career at this point?
Yeah, and look, that is a challenge for many. I mentioned that I had a dual career. My last job before I said, no, I'll just do this fully self-employed, I was a general manager of HR operations for an ASX-listed organisation with responsibility for a team of 27. And I still was an exhibiting artist as well. So I totally get that, absolutely understand that variance. For me, it's more about not either or. It's how can I start to create the shift? So when so if I think about your work, and I haven't looked at your work yet, Chris, and it's always up to you to decide, but you might be putting in a whole ton of time to make exquisite work. Is there a way that you could then monetize reproductions that you can sell online on a by using automated funnels that can start to bring you in sales when you're not even there and paying attention to it? That still allows you to do that. And so looking at what's my exit strategy? What do I need to create? What can I create and explore to have a transition? Because of course we want to pay the bills. you know, we all need to eat. We all want a roof over our head. And it's just about, if you aren't currently making the money in your art, what are the mechanisms that are available to you? So whether reproductions is suitable for you or not, I have no idea. Whether licensing can work, there's a whole host of things, but also building up your audience for those sales. So many artists have non-arts jobs, and the other part of that working out the balance is, what can you do in that non-arts job to negotiate for it to be less impactful on your creative and your art time? So are you currently working full-time? Is there a way to explore moving some of it to work from home, to move some of it to more flexible? Do you move to part-time? And so on. So looking at what are the opportunities, and really with a fresh kind of brainstorming, what are the things that I can do to increase the income from the art, and what are the things that I could potentially explore to reduce the time impact? And then just work through a transition. I wish I had an easy just do this, and I think if I had that, I would have a brilliant business that I'd be able to sell to every creative on the planet. But that would be my advice.